welcome to Saving Europe. I'm the novelist and historian Henry Vyner-Brooks, and in this series we're following the lives and travels of two of history's unsung heroes. The decisive leadership shown by the 6th century monk Columbanus and the 20th century statesman Robert Schumann helped rescue Western civilization in two very different dark ages. So, joined by my two sons, I'm on a 4,000-mile, 12-country post-Brexit odyssey to find out if these men and these dark ages can teach us anything for today.
And in this episode, we finally take the plunge into the Trebbia Valley, passing the battle site that shook the complacency of ancient Rome, and finally on to Bobbio, where we find tantalizing glimpses of Columbanus' legacy. We explore derelict monastic buildings, abandoned mountain villages, and bite off more than we could chew in the Apennine Mountains.
This isn't a path. This is a precipice.
All this time on Saving Europe. If you're finding this content helpful, then please return the favour by liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and perhaps even sharing it with a friend. And also do check out the new book which accompanies this series. Thanks for watching.
Hannibal's elephants. So we're at the site of the battle, and this is one of the major turning points in the Second Punic War.
It was the first of 3 crushing defeats that brought Rome to the very precipice of the unthinkable.
You know, it looked, to all intents and purposes, that the power of Carthage would persevere over Rome. But somehow the Scippios rallied, and they came back fighting, and they defeated Hannibal in his own territory.
It was one of the great reversals in the story of our civilization, and one that stands as a reminder of the unexpected possibilities of renewal that we've been studying in this series.
Passo Penisse, Columbano, the apostle of Europe. What's interesting is that it says that Columbanus in his 70s came up into these hills and helped carry the wood down for the fabric of the building.
We descended that evening from Mount Penisse on an ancient route connecting France and Italy, down into the valley that Hemingway had called the loveliest in the world. We spent the night under the superb Roman bridge which still spans the river, and in the morning took our equipment across the Trebbia and to see what we could find of the last monastic startup of Columbanus. If you're someone like me and always complaining that you never have enough time to do what you need, then come and see what this 70-year-old man was able to accomplish in the last 2 years before his death.
These Roman columns from what was then called a Bobbio. You know, we've got to remember that when Columbanus comes, it's only a few years after what they call the Volca-Wandering, which was this great migration of peoples that sundered the empire. When he comes here, they're still in a period of reconstruction. So Columbanus was given a grant of land at a Bobbio, 4 miles. Agilulf gave him either side. The only thing he had to share was 1/2 of a well, and there were valuable mineral rights. So he arrives, 614. There is already here a church of St. Peter, a basilica, and he repairs the roof, going up to the hills I can just see here, bringing down the timber on his own shoulders because it was too steep apparently for animals. And here, you could raise that up, Monastero di Columbano. And here, he made a home in the wilderness. Again, follow me. No sooner was this fledgling monastery up and running than Eustace, the then abbot of Luxeuil, arrived. Eustace brought Columbanus an invitation from the king. Return, come back to Luxeuil as abbot once more. It was a tempting offer, a chance to escape the hardships of the pioneer life in these mountains. How grand the patronage of such an omnipotent monarch, now ruling over such a vast swathe of land. What opportunities. How wonderful it would have been to have been able to go back there, to have gloated over those bishops who chucked him out, to have revelled in the adulation of the young man. But he doesn't do it in some of the greatness of Columbanus' soul is seen because he writes to the new king. And he says to him, "You shouldn't have treated the prisoners of war like that. That was brutal, how you tortured your enemies." And that's an immensely attractive side, that he was not so triumphant in his thinking as an old man. And by now he's already suffering of what he calls the pains of old age. He writes in a letter to Fidolius to remember him. "Remember," he says, "you enjoy yourself, remember the pains of old age. I dictated these verses to you, all weighed down, as I am with a cruel malady. My frail body feels the sad effects of old age, for in the headlong flight of years I have already completed the thrice Olympiad of my life. All things pass away, the days fly beyond recall. Farewell, may you be happy, and think of the sadness of old age." He would be dead in 1 year's time. And he does not go back. He stays here as a pioneer in the wilderness to build something new, something that would last, and he pours himself into it. In fact, this becomes the abbey with one of the most famous libraries in Europe. When Umberto Eco writes the name of the rose, he's looking for an abbey with a great library. He's thinking of Bobbio, but the location he places near Turin on a mountaintop monastery that we saw yesterday. I can see areas of successive building here, arches that have been filled in. Just thinking about Columbanus' legacy, I've just found something, and it has astounded me.
It was a sobering reminder. We talk of monastic libraries as if they were somehow fusty and irrelevant to us, forgetting that for those vital centuries after Rome's collapse, it was places like Bobbio that were our last bastion against total moral and intellectual anarchy. When Kenneth Clark remarked, "We got through by the skin of our teeth," he wasn't joking.
So we're still in the monastic complex. Part of it is a school, part of it is a museum. It's a vast complex. But this is an old chapel. Old monastery garden down there. Looking down the stonework, and I can't see any cloister fittings for a colonnade or anything. So a garden out there. The roof's collapsed in, and it's been just re-roofed, not properly with roofing felt. I love these. Look at this. It's an extraordinary thought. This was part of one of the greatest monasteries in Italy, one of the most famous libraries. And now it's derelict and you can just wander around. No one's even bothered doing it up for a set of flowers. You can see the problem. Bring this into the light. This is just wet rot. There's no dry rot on this. If there was, they'd have taken the timbers away. There's no nail.
It was a sobering reminder. Like many other monasteries associated with Columbanus, this was suppressed by the French in 1803, and there's not been monks here for over 200 years now. After filming all morning, we had a picnic under the Roman bridge, and then, after cooling off in the mountain waters, we headed further up into the Apennines in search of the cave where Columbanus went to pray and where, according to one legend, he actually died.
we've come up quite a long way from Bobbio. I tell you what, it's a long way up. I'd say it's a hike of about 2,000 feet. How you do the gears? Even here we're on the Via Francigena, that great road linking Italy to France. Now actually what I've got here is I do have a sort of map which we can use to go from Coli to where we've got to go. It's actually a bit of a walk, I think. Anyway, we've got time.
We didn't know it then, but the hand-annotated map, which we downloaded from Wikipedia, placed the cave at an entirely wrong end of the valley, and so sends us on a 7-hour wild goose chase around the mountains.
So we know we've just got to get down this hill, heading for that tower over there. It's not the best of roads. This place is called Fossili, and it's the head of the valley, so it looks, we don't have to jump off a cliff to go to Columbanus's cave. I was looking for a track that will take us there, and we are assured that such a thing exists. I'll tell you something, this is not a signposted route. So there is literally not one thing to suggest this is the way to Columbanus. Without the this thing off the internet, which I've put into a picture, we would be stuffed, I'm telling you. We would not know. There's no sign saying to Columbus Cave. Down. It does show a bend soon after the start, so that is actually encouraging. Doesn't mean you're right, but the reason why that was not signposted as the way to Columban's Cave is because it was someone's horse chestnuts. Anyway, there's a load on the path. We've got a pocket full for eating later. Maybe we turn too soon. We're going to carry on down, see if we can find another way in. But it's, whichever way you look at it, it's going to be a long walk. Still, lovely day. We'll just pull over maybe and ask somebody. What is it? So 2 kilometres there, 2 kilometres back. It's getting rather late in the evening. But we're hardy souls, and more importantly, we have biscuits. And this looks like it's been trodden by more than just animals. So let us plunge down. Oh dear, we're going to be collecting more chestnuts. Wow, wow, wow. Must be fascinating, all the people that live up here. All around the Apennines, there are these little hilltop villages. I mean, most of those buildings look derelict across there to me. I imagine it's the same story the world over, you know, young people moving out. You know, are they going to work these chestnut mountains? Just can't see it, you know. I've not seen a single young person up here. Still the old guy is still there. Beautiful evening. It's almost October and it's still hotter than English summer. I think it was about 30 degrees today. We want to get down there. We're still struggling. Someone's already put their own marks over it and it's not right. Pursuing it, it's getting late. The tension mounts. We've been up at the farm at the head. We've been halfway down that valley there in the Chestnut Road. Nothing corresponds with the map. It's just most peculiar. It's almost like someone's done it when they had too much vino. This isn't a path. This is a precipice. It's terribly sad, but we are not going to be able to go up the valley. Right up there, I can see, I know exactly where it is, but not going to be possible to get there today. Worse, we've just dropped the microphone somewhere on the trail, so we're going to have to go back and see if we can find that. That's really, really serious. Okay, we're completely retracing our steps.
Yeah, we came from over there actually, we crossed over, so go back across.
Okay, I'll go down here, you guys don't wait. How beautiful the sun's setting. I don't know what to do now, really. We could stay here another day and then walk up the valley tomorrow morning, or I could get up early and do it in the morning. That might be the best thing, just camp here. Yeah, maybe that's the thing to do. But, very frustrating. I feel like it's a wasted afternoon. That's the real thing as well.
On reflection, I began to see how my confusion, my frustration, and wasted time, because of the map, was very like how Columbanus' generation must have viewed the spiritual map laid down for them by the Druids. Something seemed true, but so many more never quite added up. Paths never quite led where you wanted them to, and all the while that terrible nagging doubt as the light faded and time ran out. No wonder they studied and memorized such swathes of the Bible when it finally reached them.
I've just settled the boys in bed. The chestnut seemed to go down quite well. All that's left now is really just to download the footage which is on here. I've got the laptop ready. Yeah, well, it's turned out all right, all things considered. It's a lovely place to camp. It's lovely and cool up here. I'm still in shirt sleeves, but it's nice not to be muggy. It was quite clammy down in the valley last night, so this will be a little bit of a treat. Well, it's 6:30 UK time, and I'm just heading off into the forests to find Columbanus' cave, the place where he died on the 12th of November, 615. You know, we've followed Columbanus since his very early days as a monk, from his teens. Now I'm following him as an old man. I can still see the valley. It's another few hundred feet below. You can see all the way along. You've got to clamber over fallen trees in this chestnut forest. The ground's very shaly. But yeah, that's a long way down. Just walking on a landslide here. Be a little bit careful, but it's nice to have a break so we can actually see the sun's just peeking up over the villages opposite. I'm getting close. Great, just battled through another 20 minutes of fallen trees. I've had a look at the map and it's not making any sense at all. But the fact is we are on the valley floor, and this is the only path that brought us here. So now I imagine Columbanus would have come up the ravine to get there. Sensible him. I have seen photos of the hermitage, so the cave, so I know that it doesn't look like this. I think it's way, way back up there. So it's like this. We've come right to the base of the valley. As you can see from behind me, it really is just a jungle. Everything's collapsed. This is what we've been working off. I mean, it's possible the person making this has confused two different routes down. The distance I've travelled, I think I'm at a different path here on the very, very at the head. Now, if that's the case, it's not actually that far down there. If the person doing this has confused the paths, it's a bit of a shame. I'm really disappointed after all this, particularly as we've given an extra night when we could have gone north. But I mean, we're close, but a miss is as good as a mile here because the landscape is tough, very tough. It is dense down there. It's not just getting down, it's getting back.
I returned to our camp, and later we went back down the mountain to Bobbio. It's hard to describe the sense of disappointment and frustration mixed with incredulity that I felt that morning. This does give a vivid picture of a man who, in good faith, followed an incorrect map as far as it was humanly possible to go. At points, I was riddled with doubts. How could a map from a reasonably reliable source be so wrong? It must be me, I thought. But then again, so many things didn't quite fit. And this, in a nutshell, must have been the sort of cosmic darkness and despair that Columbanus' generation was so desperate to escape. It was time for us to bid farewell to this remarkable man that we'd followed from Ireland, and where better than back in the church he'd once re-roofed, and in the tumbled-down monastery that we'd seen earlier.
So very humbling to be, but this was the Church of St. Peter, in Bobbio, at the time of the Roman Empire. Columbanus re-roofed this. It was already in a state of decay. The roof had fallen in. I don't think it would have been this big. I can see some old stones at the end. Let's have a look. Which is pointed, which means it's later. I can see a round arch above it. That might be original to the building. One of the things you see time and time again is that when somewhere becomes popular, it gets rebuilt and enlarged. So when we look down here, we're seeing probably a much later basilica. This reminds me, the Banger Antiphony is in the Ambrosian Library in Milan. I had almost forgotten that the great man is buried here, just below our feet. Just found the stairs, come on.
And it's not just him down there in the crypt. His bones are kept company by those of the second abbot, his Burgundian friend Atala, and the third abbot, Bertolf. The most recent scholarship has shown that beyond that of its founder, the Irish influence in Bobbio was very small. But for Columbanus, the project was never an ethnic one. He certainly revelled in the unlikely grace and providence that had sent this previously unlettered barbarian to the continent as a teacher. But beyond that, his core drive was speaking through the fog of a compromised Christianity and erecting an exit sign for those wishing to escape the dehumanizing stranglehold of a resurgent paganism. And that, after all, is not irrelevant to us in our generation.
This is it. The end of all his pilgrimage. He said that life was a pilgrimage, it was a journey. He never settled down, he never compromised. Never sought the comfortable way. He knew the ideal and he headed for it. I just wonder what people would make of him now. So single-minded. He might be the perfect antidote to our own age. Sometimes Christianity arises as a direct contradiction to that particular spirit of the age. If Columbanus stands for anything, I think for us, we have killed ourselves with luxury, with leisure, with ease. I don't know whether he's too hardcore for us. When you give something up, you don't do it because you hate that thing. You do it because you love something else and you're charging toward that something else. There was something that Columbanus loved. He wanted solitude for myself and the salvation of many. And I think he got that. So, standing here in the ruins of the Bobbio monastery, so important in its own time, yet now just abandoned. This will never happen again. Things move on. These old doors will close no more. Everything's shut up. So the challenge, of course, comes down the centuries to us. What are we going to do? Do you live with the spirit of the age, or do you go and do something extraordinary? Mere comfort, mere ease, it's not enough. That is a rabbit-like existence. But their message was, if that's all you've got, if you neglect the greater needs of human beings, the spiritual aspect, if you favour as normative as representing the common core, just a secular view, then your project will fail. That was the lesson. So in a way, you know, when I think of Columbanus here, his lesson is not, his message is not irrelevant to us. It's not, you know, the West almost stands on the rubble of a fallen cultural Christianity in a post-Christian West, but that's a good place to start building again. You know, when I think of this rubble, Columbanus built on the rubble. There's still loads to do. So there's the challenge. There's the challenge. It's quite sobering being here, I must say.
Join us next time on Saving Europe as we descend the Julian Alps in search of a young man called Jonas, who would one day become Columbanus' biographer in the Roman town of Susa. Amidst the most astonishing antique ruins that we found anywhere on our travels, we catch a rare glimpse of the generation that form a bridge between the fading Roman world and the new medieval synthesis. All this and more next time on Saving Europe.
Remember also that this journey was part of the research for a book which uses the lives of Columbanus and Schumann to explore the unlikely arrival, survival, victory and atrophy of European civilization. Do follow the links below to find out more. Please let us know what you thought of this episode, what you liked, what you didn't, what was new to you. Just start a conversation below in the comments section. And of course, if you found the content helpful, then we're pretty sure you're going to like this next one suggested here. But also while you're there, don't forget to help us by subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.